Pull that after.
Welcome to a special edition of Hemp Radio. I'm PatiCakes, and I am at the Wine Cave in Newport Beach, Vineyards and Winery, with Richard Moriarty, the proprietor, and Judge Jim Gray's former Superior Court Judge, Orange County. And I'm so excited that I get to spend my morning with two handsome men. And we're going to start now with, thank you so much for coming, both of you. It's been fabulous. And we have an event on Thursday called Regulate Wine Like Marijuana Initiative 2012.
Regulate marijuana like wine, it's close.
What did I say? Regulate wine like marijuana?
Someday we'll think of it that way too.
And how did this happen? What was the determining moment that you said, this isn't working? What am I going to do to change it?
Well, actually, Patty, I was on the bench, and in my own courtroom, it just came upon me really strongly that the tougher you get with regard to drug crimes, literally the softer you get with regard to the prosecution of everything else. We only have so many resources, and we were spending them on nonviolent drug offenders instead of robbery, rape, and murder, and it just made no sense to me. And then you see that we're prosecuting even heavy dealing people. Does that mean that heroin or marijuana is no longer available in Santa Ana or Anaheim or whatever? No, it's just an employment opportunity for someone else. And then I'm a libertarian, and I think, it makes as much sense to me for the government to be able to dictate what I as an adult put into my body as it does what I put into my mind. It's none of their business. What we need to do is focus on what people do, not what they put into their bodies.
And how do we do that?
Like what we're doing now. Richard is coming forward. Lots of very well-placed people are coming forward saying, enough of this. And without even talking about Mexico and the violence and everything that's going on there. Enough of this. Our governments are strapped for money. What's the largest source of untaxed revenue in the state of California? Well, it's marijuana.
And why don't they get that?
And control it. They are getting it now. They're beginning to.
My feeling is it's about power, greed,
it is. It's money
and control, because you can't patent a natural substance.
That's right.
And that's where they, that's why they can't do it, and that's why they're doing all this.
I have been in the offices of two sitting congressmen telling me, you know something, Jim? Most people in Washington realize the war on drugs is not winnable, but it's eminently fundable, and they're addicted to the drug war funding. So it's money, and it takes people, voters, to be able to turn this around. And that's what people like Richard are doing, and that's what I'm trying to do. Certainly that's what you're doing. It's going to work. The question is when.
Richard, what made you decide to say, I would love to open my property to Judge Jim Gray for an event? What was the thing that made you decide that that's...
I believe in its concept. I mean, if you look at the drug war right now, there's been 40,000 people killed in Mexico. We're exceeding the body count in Afghanistan and Iran just in the drug wars, and just in the past week. They're just, more and more people are being killed over, an herb.
A weed. It's a weed.
There's a reason for this.
And we thank you so much. It was very generous of you to offer your property to Judge Jim Gray. And when I spoke with him, and I said, Richard Moriarty at the Newport Vineyards and Winery would like you to host an event here. The property is yours. And your response was...
He's the guy with a Lamborghini on his wall in his living room?
Yes.
The answer is, we've now gotten this whole different area of society that's coming forward. We will have Representative Congressman Dana Rohrabacher here as a signer.
And how'd you get him here?
Basically, he believes it. And he believes regulate marijuana like wine is the right way to go. Assemblyman Chris Norby, Chapman University President Jim Doty has endorsed all of this too. There are lots and lots of people, because as soon as you get one prominent person, others will follow.
You're the prominent person, honey.
He's a prominent guy.
He is a prominent guy, and he's a brilliant...
I've got a friend of mine just got out, did 20 years at Terminal Island for marijuana.
Yeah.
No. 20 years.
And it's sad. It's very sad.
It's needless.
It's needless. It's what was the reaction from your peers when you said, "I'm going to write this initiative"?
It's two questions. What is their public reaction or what is their private reaction? Because judges are naturally disinclined to want to call attention to themselves, and a lot of other public officials the same. But privately, in the judge's elevator, in the judge's lunchroom, you know, Jim, what we're doing isn't working. I may not go quite as far as you are, but we've got to change. This whole thing, particularly with marijuana, is just off base. That's pretty much the consensus.
Well, the bottom line, I think, is if people come out of the cannabis closet and support it, because they're all using, most of my patients, I would say 3/4 of my patients are over 60. For cancer, for pain, I do edibles, and it's incredible. And they know, they've studied it, they've done the research. I totally agree with you when you made a statement that we didn't lose Prop 19.
I will basically say, and I believe this, that Proposition 19 in California passed. We're just delaying implementation for 2 years. That regulate marijuana like wine addresses the perceived defects of Prop 19. It says right at the top, does not affect driving under the influence of marijuana. Does not affect the workplace if you're impaired or using in the workplace or in public. Doesn't change any of the laws regarding that. Certainly furnishing to anyone under 21 or them using this. But otherwise, as far as recreational marijuana is concerned, it's still the largest cash crop in our state. That tells me someone is using it.
It always has been.
Of course
it's always been the #1 cash crop in California.
Well, they just, Mendocino, they just ripped up, 500,000 plants, I think.
Not that it matters.
Not that it matters. It's always going to be there, and the fact that it's not being taxed is something that we're losing significant revenue on, and also the control, because we don't have any control, because we haven't regulated. Wine, as you can see here, I'm taxed, and actually the tax basis could be similar to wine based on the strength. In other words, if you've got hemp and you're making clothing, you shouldn't really pay a tax. But if you've got some high potency marijuana, you should pay a tax relative to the potency. It's the same thing with wine. Sure. We do the same thing.
There's a different issue too that I still remember. There was about 4 or 5 different times when I was sentencing a young man, they were always young men, for being under the influence of methamphetamines. And they would tell me at time of sentencing, Your Honor, my drug of choice is marijuana, but I would buy from the same supplier, and unbeknownst to me, he would have sold me some marijuana laced with methamphetamines. I smoked it a few times and got high. And I still remember thinking, Patty, that's an issue we can address. The bathtub gin issue and alcohol prohibition went away when we repealed alcohol.
Exactly.
You're not going to get it
you
back
have control.
boroughs.
You have control.
You do. So to call these things controlled substances is absolutely stupid.
Plus, I think there's an issue of even just pesticides. In other words, if you are controlling who's growing it, who's making it, as I'm a licensed pesticide applicator, I used to grow orchids. I had 12,000 orchids, and we had an issue one time with Temic. People were putting Temic on watermelons and killed a bunch of people because they weren't regulating the pesticide use. Sure. And I think that's an important issue.
Well, I tell people that today we do not have Mexican drug cartels planting illegal vineyards in our national forests in competition with Newport Beach vineyards and wineries. They're not doing it, but they're planting, of course, marijuana all the time because it's unregulated. And these are things we're going to change.
Exactly.
And they do in the national forests. I know for a fact that to protect their crops, they were killing the deer, the rabbits, poisoning all the species that would be competitive with their crop. Sure. And that was
the big fires that we had in east Santa Barbara County a couple of years ago were caused by people growing illegal marijuana there. They tipped over a Coleman stove and then ran.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. Yes.
Caused by marijuana prohibition.
Yes.
All of these things.
Well, I think that the government has forced people to do this because they didn't think about it. It's been how many years since Prohibition?
Well, since alcohol prohibition was 1932 that was repealed.
How did it take? I don't understand. They knew that didn't work. They had a model. I don't understand why it's going to take somebody like you, somebody like Richard, someone like me, and all of the people out there that are, championing for this. Why has it taken them 50, 60, whatever years to realize?
What's interesting is Rockefeller was the guy that he was the one that made prohibition. He pushed it through the Congress, and then he realized that the corruption and the violence and stuff that ensued with the mobs and stuff, he was the one that came back later and said, I screwed up. You know, I made a mistake. This is not working.
Well, it was a group of people. It was Andrew Mellon, J.P. Morgan Chase. It was Randolph Hearst. It was DuPont. DuPont feared hemp being stronger than plastic. And if they would look at the money that could be made just alone on hemp.
It's easily, we import $1 billion
Yes.
of raw material hemp from Canada, of all things, every year. So we're penalizing our own merchants, our own people.
Exactly.
It goes on and on. All you need to do is legitimize the discussion, and I guarantee we will change a way.
Well, I was recently in Amsterdam and visited the hemp museum that is there, and they had all these big posters that the government had generated during the war. You know, grow hemp for, you know, obviously grow.
Oh, it was illegal not to grow hemp.
That's true.
Well, Jefferson grew it, Washington grew it.
They all smoked, grew it. Abraham Lincoln, I have quote.
It was actually used as money.
Exactly. Well, I think what you're doing is fabulous. And what we need to do is get the word out there to everybody to understand what is going on, and it's not working. The war on drugs never worked. It's not going to work.
It's hopeless. It's failed. It must be changed. It will be changed.
I mean, there's tunnels that are coming in from Mexico. Come on, these guys.
They use catapults now.
Yes, I saw that. I did an article on that. I loved it. They're brilliant.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, Thursday, September 1st, we have an event called Regulate Marijuana Like Wine 2012 Initiative, and it's going to be here at the fabulous Newport Beach Vineyards and Winery. Judge Gray is hosting it with
Steve Downing, a former chief deputy of the Los Angeles Police
I love
Department,
that, yes.
As well as Chris Norby, an assemblyman, as well as Dana Rohrabacher, a member of Congress, and others. And is, of course, hosted by this wonderful fellow right here, named Richard Moriarty. Thank you for
Thank you
opening
so
the
much.
process.
Exactly. And hopefully, everybody has to vote. That's the big deal, right? You've got to go out there and voice your opinion, and we can win this war. This is the war that we are going to win. What do you think, Jim?
It's going to happen. It's a question of when.
Exactly.
This will be historic. It will pass in 2012 if we do our jobs right, and we will, and then it will sweep the country, and I guarantee, Patty, Richard, anyone who will listen, that 2 years thereafter, everybody in the country will link arms and look back and be astonished and aghast that we could have perpetuated such a failed system like marijuana prohibition for so long.
So what do you say to the people out there? How can they help?
Just talk about it. Legitimize the discussion. Come out and give some support to this initiative. There's one in Colorado. There's one in Washington. Certainly here in California. This is going to happen. Be a part of history and join us.
Thank you.
Maybe we could have opened some jail cells too.
Oh, of course.
Oh, you two are going to jail, did you say?
No, I haven't been to jail.
Easy now.
Thank you so much. We look so forward to the event on Thursday, and thank you, Richard, for sharing your fabulous property, and it is beautiful. And Judge Gray, what you're doing is just incredible because we have the same mission. And thank you all for joining us. We'll see you again at hempradio.com. Thank you.